So this is going to be the first video on a series of videos I'm going to make on all of my baits that I make and sell. Every so often I get questions about a particular bait in the comments. So my idea is I want to make these videos so that I can do my best to inform the people that want to buy something from me on what that is they're getting. See, how the world works is, somebody comes out with a product and they make advertisements and they do their best to sell that product. They hype it up, they talk it up. What I feel like would serve me best in the long run is making you guys understand exactly what you're getting from me when you buy something. What parts are in it, what kind of hook, what kind of skirt, whatever I can say about it. But not only is it important for you guys to know what you're getting, but to know how to use it. So I'm also going to be giving tips and tricks about that particular bait. So we got the buzzbait. I got 3/8, quarter, and 1/8 ounce. I have both the regular and the jointed version. By far, my favorite has been the 1/4 ounce, white and red jointed buzzbait. The 3/8 and the 1/4 ounce use a 44 strand silicone skirt with the rubber skirt collar. There is a downfall to using the rubber skirt collar, and that is if you're going to soak your bait in scent, some scents will make that rubber swell, and then your skirt will fall off, and eventually that rubber will break because of the scent. But I don't soak my buzzbaits. Actually, I don't soak anything that has a skirt in scent. What I do is if I want scent on a bait that has a skirt, I will soak my soft plastic in the scent and then put the soft plastic on, and that's where my scent comes from. I know a lot of people like the wire-tied skirts, but to me that adds a lot of labor. It's definitely harder to do that than it is to just put it on the rubber skirt collar. But to me, a benefit to the rubber skirt collar is, if something does manage to only get the skirt and pull it down, yeah, it sucks, it got pulled down. You wouldn't have caught that fish anyways, and all you have to do is just slide it back up and put it back on. I think that's a benefit, because with the wire-tied ones, that's not going to happen. If that happens, you're going to start ripping skirt out. This will just slide down. I think that's a benefit. Then another benefit is customization, right? With the rubber skirt collar, if you want the red on top, just take it, twist it, put the red on top. Of course, anything we talk about, I can do, but it's about bringing something to you that is of quality at the best price I can. There are a whole bunch of people out there making baits. Giant, multi-million-dollar companies down to people like me just starting out and doesn't have much. And so I gotta fit in there somewhere, and I gotta be competitive. A lot of companies that start off like me go all out, and they make this bougie, crazy. There's so many options you can do to make a buzzbait more expensive than what I've done. And then you'll end up charging you $15, $20 for a bait. And I don't want to do that. For a bait to be that expensive, I think you really got to get something special to be that expensive. And honestly speaking, unless it's something dealing with durability that's going to save you from buying another one, I don't care for it. Fish catching ability, in my opinion, comes from your knowledge and your skills more than what kind of bait you're throwing. I use a Mustad spinnerbait hook. I have the sizes of hooks used in a description in my store. I don't have it memorized because I make so many different things now. The wire comes from Do It molds. Same with the blade and the rivets. Overall, this hasn't changed much other than me creating the jointed version. I didn't have that when I started. There was definitely a lot of trial and error to make this be a quality bait. And what's special about my jointed buzzbait is it's a limited range of motion. So if something comes to run this down, it's not going to always swing out of the way completely. It's going to keep the hook upright. It won't roll over. But the biggest challenge was to keep the lead on the hook and on the wire form from separating when you catch a big fish or catch a whole bunch of fish. Not all that long ago, I've come up with a different process that will keep the lead together. It may move a little bit, but it'll stay together long enough that this blade will wear out on the rivet prior to the lead separating. Which is important because the way I do this joint, it's really foulless. Like, it can't come up and flip back on itself. I used to use, I think it was a Strike King, like Sugar Buzz. It's like a swinging thing, and sometimes it would just swing all the way around on itself and the hook's facing the wrong direction. I'd miss fish. I didn't want to have that. So some of my tips with this are, I have to ship these to you. It's an aluminum blade. I do my best to package them. Anytime somebody orders a buzzbait, I wrap them in bubble wrap just to give it extra cushion. I used to work at UPS years ago, and your stuff is not taken care of. It gets beat up, stepped on, you know. So I do my best to package them in a way that can't be destroyed before getting to you. I do my best with wrapping them in bubble wrap. Putting it in a package is also has bubble wrap in it. But ultimately, you know, you're getting shipped on a truck. People could be stepping on it. Not only is this a tip, but this is also something to check when you get the buzzbait. First thing I do, I look at it to see how close that blade is coming to this bottom wire. Me personally, I like it to be as close as possible without touching. I think it runs the best that way. And so what I'll do is I'll turn the blade flat. I'll keep that blade flat like this, and I'll push this until that wire here will touch that, and it'll bend it in. And now, look, it's just barely touching that. And every time you catch a fish, you should check that again and make sure it's close. The next thing I do is I'll look down this direction with both wires to see, is this wire parallel with this wire in the back? And I like to keep them as straight as possible to each other. Now, and I'm telling you this because, you know, you smack this off a rock, you get it in a tree and you rip it out of the tree, you catch a giant. All this stuff's going to get tweaked on every buzzbait. It's just what it is. So the next thing I like to check, and this one's going to be a little bit tricky, the buzzbait blade itself. You want to make sure that the blade itself isn't 90, it's like 80 degrees, right? Now that degree can change. You can actually mess with that to change how it runs. But the most important part of this is to see if each blade is the same as the other blade, right? So if you look down, I like to look down to where this blade is flat. And then without moving the buzzbait, I will turn it to the other blade and make sure that it is also flat and I'm not seeing it in a different angle. That way you know they match. If you are using your buzzbait and out of nowhere you notice, man, it just ain't running right, you've checked everything I just said, and it still seems like it's not squeaking like you like, it's not plopping real nice on the water, it's something just seems off. In the middle of that blade, there's a hole for the wire to go through the center of the blade, right? Now these blades can get tweaked in the middle, bent this way or bent this way. But all you need to do is look in that middle of that hole in about that direction and make sure that that wire isn't rubbing on that hole in the blade, because that'll slow down the blade and it won't run right. Other than that, what will sometimes happen with any buzzbait, once again, not just mine, is you make a cast and this silicone skirt will land between the blade and the rivet. And you'll notice, like, hey, buzzbait's not squeaking, it's not really plopping right, because that silicone in there is slowing down the blade and stopping it from squeaking. So when that happens, and I'm in the cast and that's happening, I'll give it some quick pops and, like, let slack in the line, and that silicone will pull out of there. I also crimp the rivet down in multiple places so that the rivet doesn't start spinning, because if the rivet starts spinning, it's also not going to squeak properly. Another thing to really check, so on the bottom of the blade, there is the hole where it holds the blade on, and it should be flat, but more importantly, it should match the rivet, because you want those two surfaces to not be like this, it's only going to rub on the outside, you want it to be flat. So what I'll do before I ship it is, I'll hold the blade in the center with 2 fingers, like this, hold the wire up here with my thumb underneath of it, and I will pull down, and you'll feel that aluminum mounting place flatten out onto the rivet. And that, I think, will give you the best squeak, and it'll give you a quicker squeak. You know, all buzzbaits kind of need to wear in a little bit before they squeak real good. And if you get those two surfaces flat, that's going to speed up that process. My buzzbaits do not have a wire bait keeper. Once I started making my own soft plastics, you know, I realized the wire keeper just destroys baits that aren't Z-Man, or that aren't Elastech. I will never have the ability to make Elastech baits, so moving forward, I am just not putting a wire keeper on them. Of course, I can do anything, I can make that an option, but we have to understand I'm one person running this entire business at this point, with a whole lot of options. You know, that is something that I'm also different about than most people starting off. I have a lot of stuff, a lot of options, and it's constantly growing. Tips for fishing it. Summertime, hot. I like shallow water. Not saying they can't come from deeper water, but generally speaking here, shallow areas where you can get that buzzbait closer to them seem to be the most productive. To me, the best way to use a buzzbait is on the kayak. If you're floating downriver, river flowing this way, I will be looking this way, floating down backwards. Yeah, dangerous. You can't see what's behind you. You could hit something and flip, but that sets you up perfectly to make a cast 45 degrees towards the bank. Hit the bank. For me, the number one reason why you miss fish on a buzzbait is because it lands on their head. You're not ready. They eat it funny. Don't get hooked properly. I think casting on the bank eliminates that, because by the time it hits the water, they see it, they have time to set up, the buzzbait's running smoothly, and they eat it perfectly. I didn't used to hook set that hard, but I have since switched to a medium rod instead of a medium heavy, and now I'm hook setting pretty good. But you know, the technique is keep your rod tip high, not straight up, because you'll never be able to hook set, but 45 degrees ish. Maybe even raise your arms a little bit to kind of get your line off the water, and reel that thing as slow as you possibly can to where it's still plopping in the water. That's how I run it. That's how I get most of my bites. The closer the buzzbait gets to your boat, the lower you can lower that rod tip. And then when I get a bite, I just lift. I don't wait. I don't reel down. I just lift. If you feel that bite, that hook is already in their mouth. You know, one of the biggest complaints with using a buzzbait in general is how you make a cast, it starts sinking, you start reeling, and it takes 6 feet to come back up to the surface. That's not how you're supposed to do that. If you make a cast to the water, not the bank, start reeling before it hits the water. That will keep that buzzbait on top of the water. What I've been doing is I will throw one of my 3 1/4 gobies on there, and that adds some weight to it so I can cast farther. I tend to make the farthest cast I possibly can so that I'm nowhere near the fish. I don't want them to know I'm there. I want it to be a surprise. But not only that, but the goby adds volume to the bait, and at least for here, it seems like the bigger fish, they don't run it down like a trout. They don't come up to this and bite this. They come up and vacuum it off the top of the water. And having a little bit of soft plastic on the back will help give them vacuum. And then again, with my joint in this, when they go to eat it, it'll swing right into their mouth. So I think it gets a better hook set on them. Just a little side note about something quality here. I have tried some Chinese buzzbaits. There's usually something wrong with it, like really cheap hooks. But in the case of a buzzbait, almost every buzzbait I've ordered from China, I've melted the lead off it to see what they're doing inside of the bait. And I can tell you this right now. What they do in that lead is they take the wire form and a hook, and they put it together just like that. Where this is just straight. They pour the lead, ship it out. You start catching bigger fish on the buzzbait, that lead gets beat up. That lead it's soft. And with the chance of a muskie eating this, I want a more secure connection inside of that lead. So, first of all, my wire forms I buy from Do It Molds have a hook to it, which is already better than what I've seen coming from China. But what I do is a step farther, and I bet you most people don't do this. Not just crimping it down, but I will crimp it to the point that wire comes and wraps all the way around that hook. So there is no possible chance of this hook coming off, even if you lose the lead completely. Don't know if anyone else does that, but I've been doing that from the start. When it comes to the paint, I use a ProTech powder paint. Literally the craziest paint I've ever seen in my life. Heat this up, dip it into powder paint, put it in the oven for 20 minutes at 350 degrees. Bakes that thing on there, makes it hard as a rock. And no, the paint won't last forever, but that paint will last the life of that bait. Yeah, you'll get some stuff rubbing on the bottom from hitting rocks and stuff, but that paint stays on. Yeah, buzzbait has definitely become one of my favorite baits, especially for summer. Don't get me wrong, I like the Ned fish and slow fish, but nothing beats hitting the bank with that buzzbait and watching a giant come up and slurp that off the top. So cool. Biggest fish I've caught here on the Yawk on one of my buzzbaits, 18 3/4. I'm not sure if I got a 19 on it or not. I do have some color options that are growing for the buzzbait, but overall, man, white, black, I don't think it really matters that much. I don't think they're looking at it that hard. I think they see it, they hear it, and they just smash it. I think that covers it. Again, if you've bought these off of me, whether you hate it or love it, I would love to hear your opinion in the comments. Let people know in the comments what you think of my buzzbaits. I think the pricing's fair. I think they're quality. And they definitely catch fish, because I have tons of videos, even recently, of catching fish on the buzzbait. I think that's about it. Hopefully I covered everything. Like I said, if I forgot something, I'll put it in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate those that have supported my company thus far and bought things off me. You're keeping a dream alive. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.